Paden, and I'm a principal at Mill Street Elementary School in Orland, California. My background is a teacher for students with emotional disturbance and autism, and the gamut of other learning disabilities in between. And so I had a lot of strategies, and I was successful in that role, but this helped me realize that the other approaches that I was using, positive discipline, discipline with dignity, love and logic, whatever the other strategies I used, that all combined, I think, kind of fit my philosophy. It didn't really help the student be empowered to move on and take those skills with them when they left my room. They seemed dependent on the relationship that we had and me somehow being the hero for them. When I first learned about the Nurtured Heart approach, I saw Howard Glasser in Sacramento. It was a one-day seminar, and I left feeling like I needed to definitely know more about that. With the Nurtured Heart approach, I felt like now I'm giving them the tools to just realize they have the power to be successful. They don't need me to stand next to them and help them make the good decisions by being the supporter and the cheerleader for them. I can do that from afar and let them be the hero themselves. And that first week, the first day I came back for my first training, I learned that. And that was something that from then on I knew that I wasn't going to do anything else. And I haven't done anything else. The Nurtured Heart approach has been everything. It's been how we work with teachers, how we work with parents, how we work with students, and it's something that now my whole family is infected with the Nurtured Heart approach. My husband, my both kids, so it's something that's just transformed our whole lives. So I've been principal for 6 months now, my first principal job in an elementary school, and over this time it's been really interesting because I'm in a school where the teachers had about an hour and a half of a Nurtured Heart presentation a couple years ago. And so they have some understanding of it's about the upside down energy, and it's about communicating what's going well in a moment. And that's the extent. And so there's a lot of openness to learning more about it. And so I co-taught a 6-week class for the county where we are, and 3 of the teachers that I have on my campus attended that. And 2 of them are new teachers to our school, and one of them's a wonderful teacher that's been there, a veteran teacher that's been there. So the whole focus was I was going to come back and train the staff. And I came back that first staff meeting and let them know, I'm not going to be able to just come back and train you because I need to figure this out, because I'm not quite sure what it sounds like for me. So I need to be really honest about that. We did buy books, the Notching Up book, and said we're going to walk through the book together, not with the expectation that you try to use the approach in any way, but we want you to know what it is that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And if you feel like, as we talk through the book and we start working through some of the strategies, if you get to where you do want to try it and you want me to come in and we could work together, because I don't know what it looks like as a teacher, what it would sound like for me either. So we could come together and we could learn, and I could coach and work with you. And that helped alleviate a lot of the tension and the stress that was around something that was going to be foreign. And so I was able to talk about it without there being the pushback of, oh my gosh, we're going to have to do something different than what we do. And that helped a lot with them just accepting me trying something different. And so I would communicate to them, you're going to see that I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to the students about everything that led to that fight like I used to. I'm not going to spend these big circle groups trying to help with all the drama, because it's middle school at that time. And so so the whole, dramatics of that, they got a lot of attention and energy. We'd sit in those groups and we talk about, so why did you do that? And what were you thinking that you could do differently? And what could you have done? And that must have really hurt your feelings. Yeah, and so it's a lot of restorative justice, which I believe in, but it was done in such a way that they got all kinds of energy over their problems. And so I shifted away from that, and I needed them to understand that I am going to meet with students, but it's going to be brief, it's going to be quick, it's going to be focusing on what they're doing right in the moment, they're going to focus on what each other's doing right in the moment, and we're going to move on. So my conflict management with students completely changed. If there was a fight, I'd pull them in and say, do you feel like you did something to help create this situation that we had today? They were always honest. Yes, I did something. Great. And I usually ask the person I knew was going to say yes anyway. And then I'd ask the other student, do you feel like you did something to help create what happened today? I did. Do you know what that is, or do we need to talk about it and clarify it? No, I know what it is. Okay. Do you know what you need to do differently next time? Yes, I know. I know you do, because you're aware and you know what's right, and you know what you need to do to be successful, and you know what to do to be a good friend. And right now you're doing it. You're sitting here with us quietly, cooperatively, being respectful, and working through this together without being angry, and you're communicating openly. And then I'd go to the other student and I'd say, do you feel like you know what you did? Great, you do. I do the same thing. I'd somehow recognize them and I'd say, okay, do you feel like there's one thing that this person has to offer our school that's a positive trait? One thing that you wouldn't change about her or him or whatever it was. You know, one thing you think, this is what I know about that person. And then they would recognize the student. And then once they recognized each other, it was all done. I mean, they're practically laughing at that point. And I told them, I go, you're having a chemical reaction right now to recognizing each other. Like that, something's happening to your body when you recognize the other person. You will not be able to be mad at each other once we do that. You're gonna be skipping out of here with baskets of flowers, throwing petals out as you guys leave the room. And they laugh and they go on their way. So it was quick. And so I talked to the teachers about how it's gonna sound different now. Seeing that transformation just between those 3 teachers and other teachers hearing the success that they're having with those challenging students, and they don't hear those students' names anymore. They're not out there fighting with the other kids, and they're not escaping from the classroom now. They're in there, and that teacher's using her strategies and consistently communicating, not just to that student though, to all the students. It's the whole classroom that's benefiting from her recognizing what's great about them as a team and individually. And to see those students sitting up and engaged and participating as first graders in their learning, knowing that they are valued, and having the language of perseverance and self-control, and being able to hear 6-year-olds use the language when they can barely say self-control. I mean, the one student I'm thinking of says self-control every time I talk to him. What's the skill that I know you, what is the character I know you have? Self-control, yes, that's what it is. So I started a video project and got permission from the school to allow me to do this video project. And everyone I videoed, made sure I had all my permissions, and I'd go out and I would just videotape whatever example I saw. It worked every time. I didn't have to sit there and belabor any points. So we didn't argue about it. It's, here's the rule, you know the rule. I know that you're gonna make the decision you need to make, and I'm gonna move on and enjoy your lunch, and it would be done, and that would be it. But the video camera going around with that, and them knowing what I valued, it was entertaining to them, but at the same time, you just see them glow. She's gonna videotape you. She's gonna get you. No, she's gonna, you know, so you would just, and you know, they're middle school, so they act like they don't want the attention. They want the attention. You can tell, you know, they're just all giddy and silly about it. And so I think that just helps transform the whole culture. You know, you're actively out there looking for positive examples of what everyone's doing that you want them to keep doing in the school, instead of waiting for something to go wrong and then putting all kinds of energy into that. And yeah, things are going to go wrong and the rules have to be clear, and that's something that's changed, not just in my professional life, but in my personal life. Those clear rules, you know, people will say, oh, the nurture heart approach, it lets kids get away with things. It's just a way, you just talk about positive things and you ignore all the behavior. No, no, no. That's if they're not doing it right or they haven't quite gotten it down yet. I am more strict. There are more rules, clear expectations, and no gray area. And the students at the school, they would acknowledge that I was a strict person, but at the same time, they also knew that I cared about them and we had a relationship. And they knew I recognized things about them that they didn't hear other people say until the other teachers started going to the trainings and getting the training too. And whatever I could find them doing that showed that they were being successful, I made sure I went and I communicated it, and that was our relationship now. It was no longer send them to Kay when there's a problem. It's now, Kay's gonna go find them and let them know that they're not a problem. They're the successful part of our school. They just needed to hear it before they got attention for not being the most successful part of our school. They're gonna get attention somehow. Why not let them get it in the times when we want them to know, keep doing what you're doing. This is what we love about you, that you can come here and you can be a successful part of our community and our school. And they need to hear that. They don't know. They don't know it unless we say it to them. I have 2 students that stick out in my mind, and both up for expulsion. And I was fighting so hard to keep them in our school, and they had 6 different teachers and me, and not teachers yet that were using the nurtured heart approach. A couple teachers that I knew intuitively, they all cared about the kids, but their strategies were going to be a little bit more supportive. But they both went to the 1-week training in January and went back and said, we're going to ambush them. The 3 of us, there's 2 teachers and myself, we're ambushing these students and we're going to change it. And we did. And they're both on videos now, successful, not getting kicked out of class, doing the work, working to pass the classes. One of them was so extreme, he was in an at-risk program that we had, got back into all the regular classes, and we were able to, you walked in the classroom, you didn't know him from anyone else. And if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. And I don't know how to communicate how transformational in a short period of time a teenager that's been defiant, that's been in fights, that ran through all the classrooms yelling and screaming just simply to be disruptive, that looked for attention and turned the school upside down, and then within weeks walk into a classroom, he's got his pencil out and he's writing an essay in the class he probably likes the least because writing was not something he liked, and stepping up for a teacher that's using the nurture heart approach and doing what she's asking him to do, taking off his hat, doing the assignment, no longer seeing him in my office for anything other than celebration, and became a leader in our school. He became my morning announcer to make the morning announcements. I mean, just a complete 100% turnaround. And I don't know, it's so hard unless you're there. I'm gonna start crying. Unless you see it, people don't understand. It's a magical transformation simply over telling someone who they are and revealing that to them instead of talking about who they're not. And it's not that you do it because you want that outcome and you just want to make sure that that student somehow lives up to the potential that you know that they have. It just works out that they do. It's the right way to communicate, so you do it because it's the right way to communicate. But the byproduct of that is you have students that are being successful, and if there's any moment that they're not being successful, the teacher doesn't have to own that. They can own that next moment when they are being successful. And what a relief that is as a teacher, to be able to be in your classroom and know there's nothing but greatness all around you. And to be able to see through that lens, and if I can in any way help bring that to any teacher in any classroom, to know that every moment they're in there, there's greatness happening around them, and just to be in awe of that, to steal Howard Glasser's favorite term, if I could just help them just be in awe of how much greatness is filled in their room, and to recognize it and to communicate it, and then to see the power in that, that's powerful. I want to see that shift. And then once that shift happens where I am, and there's other help that needs, I just want to continue to see that shift and to help that shift. My hope for the school that I'm at now as principal is for the teachers to experience how positive a school community can be when they shift their energy, and that that's something that is a mindset, that's no longer something that we're necessarily having to teach, but it's just the way we are. So I really want to see our school transform into, this is who we are, this is how we communicate. We don't really even think about it anymore because there's no other option. This is how we help each other and our students be successful. And if the students, what I imagine, my dream is that you walk onto the campus and you hear students walking by and letting the other student know how much self-control he just used when that student took his backpack and was getting into it, or that they recognize each other on the playground when they're waiting for the other person to go down the slide, and they say, thank you for being so respectful and letting me go down the slide before you. I want to be able to walk on the campus and hear 5, 6, and 7-year-old students using the language that they deserve to know. And that my dream is that the whole school is something that you can feel when you walk on, that you know that the energy's right and you know it's not upside down. I think the Nurtured Heart approach just lets me celebrate now, lets us as a staff celebrate now, lets students celebrate now. It's everything about who we are and what we're here to be, human with each other and celebrating each other and coming together and lifting each other up. What I've done with these students is I've learned how to pick them up and carry them to the goal line with me. And so when I got back, I thought, how do I not make them dependent and have them bond with me over all the mistakes they're making? How do I get it to where we're bonding when they're not making those mistakes, so I don't have to see them at the end of the day, or they're not sent to me because they're struggling, to try to reset them. And before I went to the Nurtured Heart approach, there'd be a problem with the student and they'd say, get Kay, she'll help. And I could turn that person around and be the hero and get them to get back to class and be successful, but that's when I saw them. When I got back from the training, I went to see them on my own before I got called to go see them. And that made all the difference in the world.